5.
Hi, I'm Lucy McCarthy and I'm the Spatial Planning Project Manager for Barnsley Council, and I'm the Project Manager for the Hoyland South Master Plan Framework. Barnsley Council are working with Arup and Gillespie's to develop the Master Plan Framework, and tonight we have some of the project team in attendance to answer your questions and queries, and I'll hand over to Katie now, who can take you through the process.
Hi everyone, so I'm just going to talk through a bit of the ground rules, but first I'll just introduce myself. My name's Katie Sutton, so I'm an engagement and consultation specialist, part of Arup. So the ground rules for tonight, all attendees are muted during the live Q&A. Following the presentation, there will be a Q&A panel discussion, and to participate, you guys can ask questions using the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your screen. I've seen a few people who have asked questions now, so that's great. You guys have got a handle on everything. You can choose to post your question anonymously just by selecting that tick box. Any questions using inappropriate language will not be answered. And also, due to GDPR, please don't record the session yourself. This event is being recorded, and it will be available on the Hoyland South webpage. If you have any technical issues, please exit and rejoin the event. This tends to solve the most common issues with Teams. And if they persist, just drop a note in the Q&A chat and we'll try and get that sorted for you. If you require any further information or have any more questions, then please do email the master planning email address, which is just on your screen now. And I'll just move on and introduce the team that's on the call today. So we have Lucy, which she's just introduced herself. She's the Barnsley Council Planning Project Manager. Millie on our side is the Assistant Project Manager from Arup. And then we have Susie, who's responsible for transport, and Chris, who does urban design. So I'll hand over to Chris now, who will talk through some of the master plan and placemaking principles.
Sure. Thanks, Katie. Hi, everyone. Before I start introducing the master plan framework layers to you all, I would start off with introducing the 8 key placemaking principles. Placemaking here refers to a people-centered approach to the design and planning of this new development. The first principle, as you can see from the slide, is design quality and local character. This new development should be designed to high quality that reflects the local character of Hoyland and also its surrounding landscape. The second principles, not to any specific order, is sustainable and active travel, which is a key layer of the development to ensure secure landscaped active travel routes are in place to connect with Hoyland and also the surrounding countryside, including the Transpennine Trail. The next principle is facilities and local hub. We all know this is crucial for new facilities such as neighborhood parks, local hub, including a small local shop, and easy access to nearby recreational facility is key. Next principle is landscape and open space. Green space is very valuable to us all. Especially under current condition. There will be multiple neighborhood parks with trees, green space, and children's play area for all within the development. Next is housing mix and neighborhood. It is essential for the neighborhood to provide a diverse mix of housing types and tenures for all, including affordable homes. Next is sustainable and carbon zero. It's crucial to aim to maximize clean energy alternative and minimum carbon consumption within the sites. Next one, we have deliverability and viability. We want to ensure both of these criteria is well monitored for new housing and other facilities within the development. Last but not least is engagement and stewardship. We want to ensure all green spaces and grow gardens within the developments are well taken care of by the community, and we want to promote local initiative and stewardship as well. That's it for placemaking. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Chris. So we've tried to indicate a number of the constraints and opportunities that are very particular for the Hoyland South site. One of the main constraints is the steep topography and the ground on the site. There's two valleys running through it, but this is actually providing us with a great opportunity to have a varied landscape and make use of the green spaces on the existing site. There are some ground constraints which we're having to deal with as we develop the master plan framework. There's a lack of high quality green spaces within the site, so as well as retaining what's existing, we're trying to enhance all of these. And there's some transport constraints which we can talk about later. Yeah, and Chris, do you want to carry on with the master plan framework?
Yes, sure. Let me request control. So this slide is showing where we are with the latest development on the master plan framework for Hoyland South. First of all, as you can see, the red or pink dots here, as I'm pointing, is the new proposed local hub, which includes a small local shop as included in the local plan near proposed to the north of the site, which is near Clubfields Road. It's aiming to reinforce and reactivate the nearby shops that is also to the other side of the road. And the orange sites adjacent to the proposed local hub would be a potential site for the relocation of the Springwood Primary School. Alternatively, it could also be a potential site for housing as well as community facilities. The relocated parkside recreational facility would be located to the west of the site. There's also a proposed community hub at where the current Springwood Farm and community orchard is located. We are also proposing community grow gardens as well around here. There would also be a series of landscaped active travel routes around this area, including the enhanced Stead Lane to be a landscaped pedestrian and cycle routes, also connecting the various existing public rights-of-ways throughout the sites, linking with Skier Springwood, which is in ancient woodland, and the Dean, which is prioritized habitats in the area. The remaining area in yellow would be residential area that is proposed throughout the sites. In terms of transport, our teammate Susie will be explaining a bit more later, but the key vehicular connection into the site would be from the north through Clubfields Road, as well as from the west by a proposed roundabout right next to Hoyland West. Next slide, please. Next one would be urban design and character. This diagram shows where we are with the urban design analysis strategy. We consider key driving factor for urban design to be creating a distinctive place in this part of Hoyland to form a sustainable neighborhood. There are two key vehicular entry points as discussed earlier, one to the north, right by Clubfields Road, and one to the west, right by Hoyland West. And these 2 points would become the primary gateways into the site. There's also a proposed community hub at where the current Springwood Farm is located. And around that area, there will be multiple landscape corridors proposed running throughout the sites. First one would be along Stead Lane. Also, there will be the Voltway, which is a green corridor running parallel to the overhead power cables here from east to west. Also several semi-natural landscape lanes along the Dean, as well as nearby Skier Springwood. The rest would be residential parcels throughout the sites. There are neighborhoods of various densities proposed throughout the sites. Also, signature landmark buildings would be located at key gateways to the north and to the west, and also several focal points within the neighborhoods as well. We are also proposing multiple viewing connections within the site to allow viewing opportunities from higher ground into the open countryside and open fields. So that's it for urban design. Next slide, please. This slide shows our strategy for creating multiple character areas within the sites. We think creating neighborhoods with various distinctive characters is key for placemaking process. The first character in this diagram, you can see various character areas in different colors that we are hoping to propose. The first one is in pink to the north, right by Clubfields Road. It's called the community neighborhood, which is very much extending the existing urban fabric, urban neighborhoods of Hoyland to the north. The next one to the south of pink is family neighborhood, which is a new proposed residential area at the heart of the development with focus on family housing and local parks. The linear lighter green area to the south is called the Voltway, which is a distinctive character of the landscape corridor along the overhead cables, and is very much connecting the recreational facility to the west, as well as this neighborhood called the Green Neighborhood, which is where the Dean is located, with steeper topography and also lower residential density. And the remaining two neighborhoods to the south is the Parkside Edge in yellow here, which would be right by the Parkside Recreational Facility, as well as Hoyland West, also right next to the open fields here. So by all means, it will be greener and also lower density as well. The one to the east would be Springwood Park. The name comes from its close proximity to Skier Springwood Ancient Woodland. Also, it would be directly adjacent to the open fields here. So this would be considered to be one of the most green and also lowest residential density area of the sites. So that's all for character areas. To the next slide, please.
Thank you, Chris. Just to say before I talk about the movement framework that the Q&A panel is open if you want to submit your questions at any time through the presentation, and we'll pick up and respond to those afterwards. Okay, so the movement framework is about connecting local communities, providing access to services and amenities for both new and existing residents. The movement framework is based on a hierarchy of transport modes, prioritising sustainable travel over vehicles to encourage walking, cycling and public transport, and to discourage driving, particularly in the local area. Therefore, safe and attractive pedestrian and cycle connections are at the heart of the transport strategy for Hoyland South. So this slide maps out the network of existing public rights of way in the local area and shows the proposed routes through the site. And the scheme aims to connect the new routes with existing. Within the site, we show a number of landscaped active travel corridors for pedestrians and cyclists, shown in green through the site. These provide connections within the site and between the site and local surrounding areas of Hoyland and Hoyland Common, and to nearby routes, including the Transpennine Trail to the south. So the landscaped active travel corridors will be wide, they'll be traffic free, attractive and accessible for all. The Voltway, shown running through the centre of the site, will provide a more attractive and safer alternative route for cyclists to the currently designated route on Clubfield Road, which isn't ideal. We move on to the next slide, please. Yep. So this slide shows the proposed street network. The primary access will be from Sheffield Road, where a new roundabout is proposed as part of the Hoyland West development. An additional access is proposed from Clubfield Road to the north, and a further highway access point is shown from Meadowfield Drive, provide access only for the few residential plots to the east of the Dean. The internal primary street network will provide a circuitous route through the site to discourage cars from running through the site. The primary street loop through the site will be suitable for buses. So existing services could divert into the site, or new routes be considered in discussion with the council and with local bus operators. But we'll aim to improve access to bus services for both new and existing residents in the area. Bus stops will be provided throughout the site, and services will route so that all residents are within easy walking distance of a bus stop. An option for a potential bus gate has been identified, which would provide a quicker, more direct bus route for services, but one that doesn't encourage car access. Secondary streets and local accesses will provide access to development plots and houses. And then just finally to say that all roads will be designed with a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit to create a safer environment for all users. I'll pass you back to Chris to talk about landscape proposals.
Chris, sorry, you're on mute.
Thanks, Susie. Thanks, Katie. This slide shows where we are with the landscape and biodiversity strategy on the sites. Our overarching landscape strategy is to retain and enhance existing trees and wildlife areas as much as possible within the developments. The darker green dots and area within this diagram shows the existing trees and wildlife areas and hedgerows buffers to be retained and enhanced. There are also multiple landscape corridors, as discussed earlier, proposed throughout the sites. There is the green active travel routes, for example, along the enhanced Stead Lane, the Vaultway, and also connecting the existing public rights-of-way network that is mapped throughout the sites. And all these links would be ultimately linking with Skier Springwood, which is an ancient woodland, and also the Dean, protected habitats within the sites. There are also multiple neighborhood parks proposed throughout the site as well, including one to the north, which is an existing green space right by Cuffields Road. Also, there will be a community open space where Springwood Farm is currently located. There's also multiple other neighborhood parks throughout the site. Also, children's play area would be promoted in these open spaces, including the enhanced play area, which is also to the north of the sites at the moment. Blue infrastructure is very much incorporated into the overall green strategy as well, making sure that drainage and attenuation areas are within these green spaces. In terms of biodiversity, we aim to deliver a minimum 10% biodiversity net gain throughout the sites. Next slide, please. Over to Millie.
Thanks, Chris. So for the phasing, we envisage the development being brought forward in a number of phases. They won't necessarily be sequential according to the numbers that are shown in this indicative diagram, but they'll be based on the availability of infrastructure, so highways and drainage and utilities, to serve the respective parts of the site. But we're still developing this, and if you do have any comments on this, be much appreciated. But moving on to the next slide, Katie, do you want to?
Yeah. Okay, so this is just a bit of a reminder. I think hopefully you guys have seen all the materials already. And just a reminder that the consultation period closes on the 15th of July. And the questionnaire, the feedback survey, is available on the Barnsley website. And again, any questions can be emailed to the master planning email address. And I'd encourage you guys to ask questions. This is your time to ask questions to the project team. And also, I'll mention that we'll send a follow-up email summarising, just providing a brief summary to all the attendees tonight of our discussion today. So on that note, we'll move on to the live Q&A. There's reminders at the bottom if you just need any kind of reminding about how to use the Q&A panel, or the email address is there as well. The team that we have in attendance are Lucy, Millie, Susie and Chris, and they can help answer questions about transport and urban design, and then a bit more general about the project. So I will move on to the first question that came in. So this is from Anonymous. So in the current climate of economic downturn and probable recession, bringing with it rising unemployment, what evidence has the council got that indicates there's a market for over 1,000 new homes in the Hoyland area? Lucy, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, thanks, Katie. So housing need is identified by the Strategic Housing Market Assessment, which is the review has just been completed by the council recently. And it included a household survey. The focus on growth has always been on urban centres and in principal towns. However, if it becomes apparent that there's a decrease in need, then this would be addressed in the future local plan review period. It's unlikely that this would result in this land being placed back in the green belt, but it would impact or slow down the delivery of the master plan framework and the housing being brought forward. And it may reduce the need for other land in the future to be removed from the green belt.
Great, okay, thank you, Lucy. The next question, so this online type of consultation could be seen as discriminatory against those people who are not confident or competent in new technology, such as some elderly people. Just look at this sentence in the introductory email. So please use web browsers such as Chrome, Firefox or Edge. Safari is not currently supported, and some people would be lost already. Obviously, during lockdown, public meetings are not easily facilitated, so why not delay or extend this consultation until everyone can fully participate? Thank you for your question. It's a good question, and I can answer that one. So in light of the current pandemic, it is important to continue with project delivery and the associated consultations, but it's also equally important to ensure consultations are accessible to everyone. And our proposed approach that we work together with Barnsley and ourselves to come up with this approach, and it involves a combination of traditional and digital techniques and methods that are tailored to this project to make sure that it is inclusive and it is robust. It isn't an online only consultation, and it's because it's not currently possible to hold drop-in sessions, you know, those physical events that we generally would have. We have put in place some new ways for people to get involved, and these live sessions are one of those ways. And this is really an opportunity for people to be able to ask questions like you would at physical events. We do recognise that some people aren't online, and for those people who are unable to access those online sessions, we have a phone number to request any hard copies, and that also gives us a chance to speak to them as well. So we would plan to speak to anybody that requests hard copies on the phone and to help answer any questions they have. I would also say that there's posters and leaflets available in community facilities and grocery stores in the Hoyland area to help raise awareness. There's site notices up as well around the site. And we've also extended the consultation period from the standard 4-week period for master plans, and we've extended that to 6 weeks during this time to basically allow people to review the materials, and for those people who are unable to access anything online. And I guess the other thing, it's important to mention that we don't know how long this pandemic could last. So many of these projects will contribute to economic recovery, so it's important to continue project delivery. And I can go into a bit more detail if you'd like about the digital and traditional techniques, but I'm hoping that answers your question. And I will move on to the next one. Please, can you explain biodiversity net gain? Chris, I think this one's for you.
I think I can take it.
Oh yeah, go on, Millie.
So biodiversity net gain, it's a new approach, a way to make sure that the biodiversity of a development in a site is left better, in a better state than it was before the development took place, and in making sure that we have appropriate natural habitat and high quality natural habitat, and any impacts of the development are mitigated. So it's currently, we're expecting this to come through the forthcoming environment bill, that there'll be a minimum 10% net gain required. And the way that this will be done is there'll be a lot of data collected, and we've already started this data collection process, but the data collector will look at what habitats are there, the quality of it, and then make sure that anything that's being delivered is a better quality and it's providing better diversity of habitat as well. Happy to give more information separately, and we're having another session on kind of biodiversity and ecology related to Hoyland South area if you need to find out more information as well. I hope that answers the question.
Great, okay. Next question from Carla. So she lives in the attached area and she needs some more information as this may impact her property and surrounding area. Lucy, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, so if you either email the master planning website or you phone the telephone number, and then we can speak to you in more detail about the proposal and how it might impact on your particular property. Happy to have those discussions with anybody.
Thanks. And just on that note, the telephone number, I saw, Carla, that you asked about that telephone number. It's 01226 773 555. I'll reply in the live event Q&A as well for you. And hopefully that will help you out there. Next question, will the transport proposals include increased rail from Elsakar station? After a great development, there's still a poor service. With an increase in homes, there will be more need when we are being encouraged away from cars. That's a great question. Susie, want to answer that one?
Hi, thanks. The proposals don't specifically include increased rail services from Elsakar. I think it's part of that would be part of a sort of broader strategy with the council and rail operators. So I don't think I can say much more on that at this stage, but we will seek to be improving access to the rail station and work, with local authorities to improve services.
Great. Okay. Next question, how can biodiversity be left in a better state when we are destroying habitat? Millie, you okay with that one?
Yes, happy to take that. So we're actually required by the local plan, and the framework kind of sets this out as well, that we will be retaining all the hedgerows, so any high quality habitat on the site we'll be retaining and enhancing. A lot of our proposals include creating more habitat as well. So if where we might be having attenuation ponds, we want to do native planting and create more diverse habitats. And where we're doing any planting, use native species. We'll be creating ecological and landscape buffers between the green belt and the scarce spring wood. So we'll be retaining high quality habitats and providing more. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, yep, thanks. I would also say that we have a landscape and ecology session on the 6th of July, Monday the 6th of July from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And I see there's a couple questions now about ecology and wildlife, and I would encourage you guys, if you can attend that session, to please attend it. Otherwise, I think, we'll answer your questions today, but if you do have more questions about wildlife and biodiversity, please do email in to the inbox. Chris, did you have anything else you wanted to mention potentially about open space and green space?
Sure, I can add a bit more on that. Knowing that you have concern regarding taking away open fields, open countryside, and for housing development, but I think we are all clear that this site is allocated in the local plan for residential, and we are very much sticking to the local plan open space provision recommendation of achieving at least 15% open space provision on the sites, and we are definitely keen to stick to that requirement and also even provide more than just 15%. As you can see from the master plan, if you can go to the next slide, please, just back to that master plan, we are keen to provide more than just 15% open space and also well-designed landscape area as well, not just an open field of grassland, but actually there will be facilities for the community, including allotment, grow gardens, trees, and protecting the existing semi-natural landscape areas such as the Dean and good proximity to Skier Springwood as well. So we're very much keen to provide a rich landscape variety within the sites. So I hope that also add value to your question as well.
I see also in this question there's a bit about noise pollution while this is being built and the dust and compensation for split views. Millie, would you be able to cover the noise pollution and air quality? It looks like this is about construction time.
Yes, so I guess just setting out, this is a master plan framework trying to kind of set out how we think the site can be developed. As this design progresses and the developers bring the design forwards and go for planning, there'll be a lot of conditions and a lot of work that developers and any contractors will have to do to manage noise and dust and any pollution and any impacts on the environment. And I guess what we've had a couple of questions about this biodiversity net gain, and it's actually a tool that hasn't been around before. It's always been a qualitative comparison between the change before and after development, and this is really providing us with a tool that means people can be held accountable more, and you're actually really rating the quality of the spaces and the quality of the spaces before and after, to make sure that it's not just a green field, but it's actually maybe hedgerows and trees and woodland, and it's not just the quantity, it's the quality of the spaces as well. But also, I guess this is the noise and pollution is particularly with regards to the ecology, but generally we will be considering the noise and pollution, especially from a kind of health and impact, health and well-being point of view during the health impact assessment as well, which will be appended to the master plan framework.
Great, thanks, Millie. I think kind of that links nicely to the question from Carla about, is this 100% going to happen, or is it just a proposal? And I know you mentioned about the master plan framework, and it is a strategic document that sits beneath the local plan and it informs future planning applications. So it acts as the principles that guide developers and their planning applications. Lucy, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that, or does that answer it?
Yeah, I was just going to add, obviously Chris has referred to it, just that the sites are allocated for residential in the local plan, so at some point they will come forward for residential development, and the purpose of the master plan framework is to ensure that for these larger strategic sites, they're considered comprehensively, so that cumulative impacts, infrastructure requirements can be fully understood at this higher level, and then that enables the council to better manage and assess planning applications when they come in, so we get a better quality result rather than if we get individual planning applications coming in. So it just gives the council that better element of control over the final result.
Thank you. Just going back up to the question above, because I know I missed that one off. So who is going to maintain the habitats and woodland areas and the green spaces, including the ponds associated with this framework? So Lucy, Chris, Millie, I think one of you guys.
So for the public open space within the new residential development, we would be working with the developer to bring on board a charity such as the Yorkshire Wildlife Trust or the Land Trust to look after that green space and that open space, rather than perhaps a more commercial outfit, so that we can bring in that added benefit, community involvement, community engagement, and perhaps get a more attractive green space as a result of that. So they're discussions that would be ongoing, but with the developer when they are on board as well.
Okay, and Lucy, I think this next one is probably for you as well. How do you expect Hoyland's roads, doctors, dentists, schools to cope with all the, oh, sorry, no, this might be for Susie, with all the extra cars, lorries and people our doctors cannot cope now? I think maybe, Lucy, if you can kind of cover the doctors and the dentists and schools, yeah. And then Susie, we can go to you about the transport.
Yeah, so as part of all of the master plan frameworks, we've been actively working with the CCG because it's their responsibility to ensure that there are sufficient doctors and dentists. So we are actively working with them, and they are assessing current levels of provision and future expected demand against all of the proposals and on all planning applications outside the master plan framework as well. So that is something that would be ongoing, and where extra doctors and dentists are needed, then the CCG will work with existing surgeries to expand surgeries or bring in new surgeries as and when required. So they have these developments in their plans and their trajectories, so they can work with us to anticipate increased demand. As for the school, the local plan has assessed the need of school places for the master plan frameworks. Now, the Hoyland South master plan framework didn't identify a need for a specific new school site. But we are obviously aware of the number of houses that we are introducing. We are consulting with the community as to whether actually a new school to the north of the site, or just off Cloughfield, land adjacent to Cloughfield Road, would be a suitable site for a new school. So likely to replace the Hoyland Springwood site, which would be able to offer increased places. The other alternative is that that's offered for residential, and we look to extend existing primary school provision. So that would be extensions to a number of the schools such as Hoyland Common and Hoyland Springwood to increase their intake. So we're really interested in seeing the community's views on which way they think that the council should be going. So we'd really value your feedback on school places. I think that's it for my bit of that question.
Thanks. Lucy, just real quick, can you explain CCGs and what they are?
Sorry, yes. CCG, they're the Clinical Commissioning Group, and they're the part of the NHS that consider and work with doctors' surgeries, assess the level of demand, the number of patients per GP or dentist, and they're the ones that do that sort of forecast modelling and work with individual practices to discuss extensions or new surgeries. Is that a bit clearer?
I hope so. If someone can write in as well, if they need a bit more explanation about that. But yeah, I think that helped, Lucy. Thanks. Susie, did you just want to cover that last bit about the cars and the lorries, please?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, there will be additional traffic on the local roads as a result of this scale of development. I would say the principle for the development was established through the local plan. And as part of the local plan process, there was traffic modelling of all allocated sites done to sort of confirm the overall feasibility and site selection. As part of any future planning application, there would be a requirement to look in much more detail at the predicted traffic impacts and on the local network, and if necessary to consider highway improvement measures so that you know that any additional traffic can be accommodated on the local roads.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next question. So there's a proposal to maybe a comment. There's a proposal to incorporate a local shop. Does anybody want to talk through that local shop proposal just very briefly?
Yes, I can.
Thanks, Chris.
If we go back to the next slide, showing the master plan again, please. Thank you. Yes, so within the master plan, there is a provision for a small local shop. It's also included in the local plan as well. And at the moment in the master plan, you can see where the pink dot is. I can't really use the mouse yet, but to the north of the site, right by Clubfields Road. Yes, so where my cursor is showing at the moment is where we propose to be the new small local shop. The reason behind that is its close proximity to the existing central area of Hoyland, and also there are a few existing local shops nearby as well, and we want to reinforce them and create a bigger local hub in the area. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Right. What's the definition, meaning of low, medium and high residential parcels and spaces, and how many properties? So Chris, can you talk through a bit about the different types of residential that's being proposed?
Sure. That's a good question as well. Thank you for asking. So regarding residential densities, we're, as discussed earlier in the placemaking strategy, we're not looking to propose a density or a place that is foreign to the surrounding context. We would be looking at the surrounding context of Hoyland and Hoyland Common. So the high density area would be something similar to the central area of Hoyland or Hoyland Common, similar to the high street areas. It wouldn't go anything that is dramatically higher or foreign to that. And medium density and low density would be quite similar to the greener neighborhood areas in Hoyland, in the surrounding context as well. So we are very much looking at referring back to these existing surrounding contexts. And also just to add on to that is we are aiming to achieve overall 1,100 homes as included in the local plan as well. And I think from our high-level studies, we can achieve that quite comfortably by adopting a reasonable density that is very much similar to the surrounding housing context in the area. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. So the next one, comment about the noise and pollution during the construction. Millie, was this the one that you took previously? Could you just reiterate your points about construction? Lucy, is there also something that could be mentioned about, is there planning applications and code of construction practices? Anything about that? go on, sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, so as part of any forthcoming planning application, the developer or the applicant would need to submit construction methodologies, and they would have planning conditions relating to hours of work, noise, pollution control methods, and they'd also be assessed by the council environmental health pollution control team as well. So there are mechanisms in place to monitor that the noise and the dust that is typically associated with a new development.
Yeah, and I would also say these are really important points about noise and pollution. So please do put that in your feedback if you haven't done that already. These are the kinds of things we can take on board as part of the master plan framework. So please do submit your feedback if you haven't done so already. I'm going to move on to the next question. This is about bat surveys in all the areas. Millie, would you like to take that question?
Yes, so there has been some work done by the council in the past. This, at the moment, we're setting the master plan framework, which is putting together a framework saying what we expect the landscape to be, what habitats we expect to be provided. The developers, when they want to bring forward an allocation, they'll need to do all the bat surveys, the preliminary ecological surveys to understand exactly what habitats are there, what ecology is in that area, and then provide appropriate mitigation to say how they're going to deal with any impact on that and how they're going to improve and retain any existing habitats on that section of land that they want to develop. So that'll be happening further on in the stages.
Great. Okay.
Sorry. Can I just add as well that there would be a requirement through the planning application as well, just to you know, if there are bats in the area, then suitable mitigation or avoidance strategies would have to be submitted and approved as part of any planning application.
I'm going to send this one to you, Lucy. This is about building on plans in Cawthorne and the Hoyland South. Would you be able to answer that, please?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that although this land was previously in Greenbelt, as part of the Greenbelt review in 2014, it was taken out, and I've done a quick search on the internet, and that 2014 review is available online for you to read, and it was taken out because it wasn't providing as good a sort of function as Greenbelt land as some other pieces of Greenbelt land in the borough. So I'm not aware. Obviously, you wouldn't be permitted to build on Greenbelt land. So I think it is an important distinction to make that this land, although it was Greenbelt, it has been taken out in that 2014 review as part of the local plan process, and all that information can be found on the Barnes Council website. If you're not sure where to find that, if you drop an email to the master planning framework email, then I'll provide you with all the links for that. So I hope that helps.
Thank you. Carla, I note your comment, and I know you've submitted a few questions now. So what I would suggest, one is definitely submit some feedback if you haven't already, and also please do call in to the phone number or send an email, and somebody will get in touch with you and they can talk through everything with you. And I hope that helps. I know we answered the CCG question earlier. So I'm going to move on to the next one. This is about schools. So what about budgets and worried about council and being short of money? Lucy, for you.
Yeah, so as part of any new development, a developer is obliged to make planning contributions, so they would be expected to make a calculated pot of money through Section 106 to go for this reason. So we would have a pot of money for primary schools and secondary schools, and there's a calculation based on how much money that is per school place. So it wouldn't be the council budget that would be taking this hit. We would be using developer funding through Section 106 agreements to expand existing primary schools or fund that new school. So yeah, clearly, you know, there are budget implications, but we will be working with the developer as well. They have to contribute to that increased demand on local services.
Next one is a comment about the planned new Hermes depot coming. Lucy, can you talk through a bit about planning applications and how they have to consider the wider area? Do you think that will help answer his comment, this person's comment?
Yeah, so obviously the Hermes depot that forms part of the Hoyland West master plan framework area, and the consultation for that closed at 5 o'clock today. As part of any planning application, transport assessments need to be undertaken, and they are expected to take account of forthcoming planning applications. So we'll be looking at traffic assessments that take account of the Hoyland North development, and we'll be looking at impacts for Hoyland South as well. Now, obviously, because we're only just starting this master plan framework, we don't have timescales involved, but all that cumulative impact will be assessed through the planning application stage. It's the planning application that really contains the detail, and it also, again, any planning application has a public consultation period as well, so there's additional chance to comment, but this, at the moment, we're just proposing these high level frameworks, and there's no planning applications submitted as of yet, but they will all take account of planned developments. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Lucy. So I see there's a question about are all 3 sites going to be started at the same time, and then about the roads. So I'm guessing, I think this goes back to an earlier question about the increase in traffic. I'm hoping that's right, Terry, but please do let me know. So Millie, can you provide a bit of information about, are all 3 sites going to be started at the same time, and what's the phasing and delivery looking like for this?
Is this all 3 sites in terms of Hoyland South, Hoyland West and Hoyland North, which I think is
right. Yeah, okay, yeah, sorry about that. Yes, Lucy, please.
Yeah, I think Terry's referring to the 3 Hoyland master plan frameworks. You'll be aware that there's an application in for the employment part of Hoyland North at the moment, and that's currently still undergoing consideration. And we don't have timescales for the residential components of Hoyland North, and again, we don't have knowledge of when a planning application for Hoyland South might be brought forward. So looking at timescales, obviously Hoyland North master plan was adopted December 2019. Hoyland West master plan framework is likely to be presented to full council for consideration of adoption in September, whilst the timescales for this Hoyland South one is likely to be presented for consideration of adoption in November. So I don't envisage that all 3 sites would be fully brought forward at the same time, just because of developer demand. but we don't know that. We don't have any control over when planning applications are submitted. So I'd envisage a staggered time, but until planning applications are submitted, we don't know that. So I hope that answers that part of it.
Right, so it looks like we have a few questions now about the type of properties that are going to be in and built, and flats and such. Chris, would you be able to provide a bit of info on that, please?
Sure, I can try. So the first question is, how high, I think it's from Carla, how high are the properties going to be? I think, as mentioned previously, we are aiming to develop a place, a neighborhood that is not foreign to the surrounding context. So to answer this question, I think is to really respond back to the surrounding neighborhoods. I think it depends on which area in specific you're referring to, but overall, I think we are looking at 2 to 3 story, nothing foreign to the surrounding context. And I think also the detailed design of each neighborhood or plots would be depending on future planning applications, as Lucy mentioned earlier. So the best way for you to stay tuned on this topic is to keep engaging with the council, with the team, to find out further information. And the next one is, what type of properties are going to be built? I think I mentioned in the placemaking principles slide earlier, it will be a mix of house types, a mix of tenures. It wouldn't be just one single type of housing. It would be a diverse, rich mix of different types, including affordable homes as well. So it should really be a community for all, and inclusive for the whole community as well. So if you're referring specific to house type, it could be a range of terrace, it could be also semis, detached, it would be a diverse range. So I hope that gives you some variety on that. The next one, I think, back to you, Katie.
Yeah, I think so. So the next one again is about the Hermes Depot. And about the traffic around that area. Susie, just before I go to you, Susie, I think it would be good to mention as well that we do have a transport session, a transport topical session, and that is also on Tuesday the 7th, Monday the 6th of July, and that's from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. and that's transport. And we will have somebody from Barnsley Council available from the Highways Department on that call as well. So some of these traffic and transport questions will also be able to be answered on that session. So please do sign up if you're available, and if you're unavailable for that as well, just please also send in your email into the master planning inbox. Susie, I'll just hand it over to you.
Yes, hello, thanks. In terms of the Hermes depot, which is on the proposed for the Hoyland West site, I can't offer a lot of information about it. We're not involved with that site, but only to reiterate that, you know, the principle for the Hoyland West development was established as part of the local plan process, and there was, you know, there would have been or there was traffic modelling, detailed traffic modelling done in relation to all the local plan allocations. Yes, it is a big site, but it is located right next to the motorway. I would envisage that the majority of the traffic associated with that type of development will be straight onto the motorway rather than through Hoyland or Hoyland Common. But any planning application for elements of that site will need to have that detailed transport assessment submitted, where they provide, you know, much more detailed assessment of the traffic and the impacts, and any highway improvements if needed. And just to reiterate that any development at Hoyland West, any assessment for development at Hoyland West would need to consider likely development at Hoyland South and Hoyland North, and similarly, if assessment for a planning application for Hoyland South came forward first, then it would also need to look at the potential traffic implications from Hoyland West. So all the potential impacts will be considered in detail.
Thank you, Susie. Lucy, the next question is about when we will see a housing proposal layout. So could you talk through the timescales and what's happening next, and when we expect the framework to be adopted and things like that?
Yeah, so this consultation period runs until the 15th of July. After that period, we will obviously assess and review all of the consultation responses we've received, both public and statutory consultees, and then that feedback will be fed back into the master plan framework as it continues in its development. Now, we're currently looking to take that through to obtain approval from full council in about November of this year. Now, the local plan policy clearly states that no planning applications can be determined until that master plan framework has been adopted by the council. So, timescale wise, in theory, planning applications could come forward sort of after that date, so perhaps in the new year. But like I said previously, we don't have control over when any applications are submitted. So it might be that it would be within 6 months' time or within 12 months' time of adoption. We might start to see some development proposals coming forward on the site, but that is ultimately outside of our control. We can just control over when the master plan framework gets adopted.
Okay, thank you. I see there's a few more comments and questions about bats and then other wildlife and stouts. Millie, would you provide a bit of information? And I also would say that I think I have said it, there is a landscape and ecology session, topical session, and that is on Monday the 6th of July, and we will have an ecologist and someone that will be able to talk through landscape as well available on that call. So some of these questions might be better placed for that call specifically. But also, I'm going to just reiterate this, please do put it into your feedback and any of these concerns, because we do read all the feedback and we take it into consideration while we're developing this master plan. So Millie, if you could just talk through the bat surveys, please.
Yeah, and the stouts. So yes, we've identified from what information we have currently that there is habitats which show potential for bats to be in on the site, and that's been identified, and that's following through in our framework to say that then more work needs to be done to do these surveys, detailed surveys by developers to understand exactly what animals are on site, and animals, whether they're bats, stouts, will be identified in these surveys, and there's detailed bat surveys that will need to be happened because we've identified potential habitats. And then as Lucy mentioned earlier, through planning, they will then be required, developers will be required to show that any habitats or any of these ecology that's on the site, what the developers are proposing to do to mitigate, to make sure that the impacts of development is managed and mitigated, so that the wildlife isn't driven out of the site. I don't know, Lucy, if you think I need to add any more to that.
I think that covers it, yeah.
Okay.
We are aware of it, and it will be addressed by legislation as well. So yeah, that we will be ensuring that is picked up.
Thank you, Millie, Lucy. And I would say also that this is really helpful for us as well to see that you guys have seen bats in the area. So really helpful. Please do submit that in your feedback. I'm conscious of time, and I know we've talked a bit about the Hermes Depot a bit, so I'm just going to go down to a bit of the other questions that are remaining and try to get through these. If you have any comments about the Hermes Depot, please do submit it into your feedback or send a question through. But I do think we have discussed that one a bit. So a question from an anonymous: who decides on what contractors get what parcels of land to build houses on and when? Lucy, Millie? Lucy?
Yeah, so obviously it's down to the landowner who they look to sort of establish that development relationship with, and that's outside of the council control. Landowners are free to choose what developer they want to work with or want to sell their land to. Was that the question?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's how are these parcels being carved up? I guess that's how I'm reading it. Are they being carved up, or are they being submitted by one developer?
We don't have that information at the moment. I'm not aware that there's a developer on board with the proposals, looking to submit a planning application immediately. So it's likely that the site will be marketed, and it might be that one developer comes on board. It might be that there are several developers come on board, and then that's down to the landowner really to take that forward.
Okay, and I'm conscious that one probably answers the question below as well about would a developer have to build all parts of Hoyland South, or could a developer just opt to build one area of that? So going to the one just above, so 1,000 homes could bring up to 2,000 cars plus. So there's no way the roads can cope with that volume, and there's concern about it's really unbelievable. You're planning this on the type of roads around this area. Could I please ask if any of us live around here? I think if we could first just cover a bit about the traffic and the volume again. Is that all right, Susie? And we'll get to the second part of the question.
Yeah, certainly. 1,000 homes will bring a fair amount of traffic to the local area. We will assess the sort of quantities in more detail as part of the transport assessment. I would say that one of the key approaches for this master plan framework is to encourage travel by sustainable modes. So providing high quality pedestrian and cycling infrastructure, so that at least trips in the local area to local shops, to schools, between sort of employment, local employment areas and the houses, that we maximise the opportunities for cycling and walking. We also want to ensure that bus services come into the site, and that ideally there can be an increase, a better frequency of services for the site as well as surrounding areas. So there will always be cars, there will always be traffic and people that need to drive. And we will look at the potential impacts and how we can, how the local roads can accommodate that. But we do want to really try and push, encourage people to walk, cycle, or use the bus, or walk up to get the train at Elsecar. I think people's travel patterns have sort of been changing over recent weeks, and there is a real push for people to walk and cycle as much as possible. So this master plan will help encourage that.
Okay.
And just to say, no, I don't live in this area, but I believe Lucy, do you?
I don't live in Hoyland, but I do live in Barnsley, yeah.
Yeah, and I think on that point, I live in the Sheffield area, but I think what I can say is that we are all experts in our field, and we're here to assess and design a robust design. So the traffic modelling will be undertaken by somebody that is an expert in their field, and I hope that answers your question a bit. I think, oh, there's a few more questions. I'll just get to them. We've got 2 minutes left. There's a question about who's the landowner. So, do we know anything about the landowners, Lucy?
Yeah, so there are two landowners within the site. The main one is the Fitzwilliam Wentworth Estate, and also Barnes Council own some of the land where the proposed school is, and another little corner of it as well. So two landowners, yeah.
Okay. I see there's a question about a transcript of the main points and questions and answers. Yes, we'll be sending out an email that provides a brief summary of what was discussed on the call, that will be sent out to all the attendees. And then question about the style and type of housing being built. Chris,
Yes.
I think that one's for you.
Sure. Thanks for the question. First of all, I think as part of the master plan framework document, we are also developing a design code that we are hoping to shape some of these detail elements of the master plan, including a guidance on the style, on the type, and also the materiality and what kind of mix are they. At the moment, we are still shaping that design code document and very much taking all your comments on board. So we don't have a definite answer for that yet, but very much going to be reflecting a lot of the feedback from the consultation period. And I saw that there was another question earlier regarding 3-story houses. That's also correct. Majority of the housing is 2-story within the area, but there are some 3-story in High Streets and also West Streets area of Hoyland to the north. So definitely we are again responding and respecting the local context, and we won't propose obviously anything that is foreign to the area. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, I realize we're now at 7:15. I'm just going to scroll through quickly and see if there's anything else that we haven't really answered yet. Lucy, the demand for houses. I think you did talk earlier about the housing need. How can you guarantee what types of houses are built if no developer is on board? Yeah, Chris? Yes,
I think this, thanks for the question, Carla. I think this relates a bit back to the design code answer that I was referring to. So obviously the ultimate layout would come from the planning application, but through the drafting of the design code document that goes with the master plan framework, we're hoping to shape the direction and guide the direction of these planning applications in the future.
Okay, I think we'll finish there. I just want to thank you guys all for your time and for attending tonight on this evening. I will remind you that there's an email address for any questions that potentially didn't get answered tonight. All the information is available on the scheme webpage, and there are a further few topical discussions following this. So they start on Monday, the 6th of July. They're all available on the Royston or the Hoyland South webpage. So there's an urban design, transport, and then a landscape and ecology topical session on Monday. Those are on the 6th of July on Monday. And they start from 5 p.m. onwards. And then there's a further general session. So any kind of general questions that aren't going to be covered in the urban design, transport and landscape and ecology sessions, you can ask them on, you can sign up to one of those sessions, and we can answer your questions there. Thanks again for your time, and please do submit your feedback. This has all been really helpful.